All right, guys, this is Nolen. With Roofers Paradise. Today we're meeting with Jesse McMullen of Sargon Roofing and Restoration. We've got the general manager, Wes, here as well. Hey there, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks
So, I told somebody I was going to say this, but none of these deals are paid, although Jesse is a client of ours with our Martin company, which we won't go into here, but I just thought I'd disclose that. But I like to do these because it gives me a chance. When I get involved, and thank you for coming on, because anytime you do something new in business and stretch yourself out there a little bit, it helps. And for me personally, I think it helps me become a better business person. It is a marketing deal to have a podcast, but as I get more involved with my clients, it simply helps me do a better job as well, and it'll help you guys as well. So in this particular podcast, I've asked everybody this when they come on, but Jesse said he's got some interesting stories to tell us about roofing. I like to know why you got started and kind of what your end game goal is, and just anything else that's interesting about it. And I'll ask you a few questions, but if you don't mind, Jesse, just tell me, a little about yourself. By the way, Sargon Roofing and Restoration is from Humble, Texas. That's Humble. That's, for those that don't know, it's part of the Houston metro area, which stretches all the way down to the coast, down to Galveston, which, by the way, I noticed on your Google business profile that you work that area. So I know roofers know this area because storms hit you guys, so. But yeah, tell me how you got started, a little about yourself, just to kind of start up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm Jesse McMullen, from Houston, Texas. We live in a little suburb called Humble. Sargon was started a year ago. I've been in oil and gas for most of my life, and when COVID hit, it kind of tanked, and I was sick of the ups and downs of COVID, or of oil and gas rather.
Right.
And I got into real estate and started flipping houses, and that went pretty well. It's still going pretty well. But I realized that there's a big void of roofers, and of good roofers out there. And I didn't really know anything about roofing whatsoever, to be honest.
So Wesley, I hear this story a lot, Jesse, where people get into construction or house flipping, or even realtors, and they watch that roof go on while they're out there working, and they're like, that seemed easy. Maybe I should try that. Now, I don't think it is. Nothing's easy to make money with at the end of the day, but a roof can go on in one day, make a higher profit margin than other remodeling jobs. Doesn't involve the wife complaining about the color of the backsplash, and boom, they've got their check and they're out. You see the business owner show up, shake a hand, grab a check, if they even show up, and then they're gone. And you can still get a quality roof put on that way if you trust your material and your building, your subcontractors, and your building, your roof systems. But I'm sorry, I cut you off. You're about to say something about Wes.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of potential in roofing, and then with a couple Google searches, I found a lot more out about it. So Wesley had actually door knocked and replaced my roof 6 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And I gave him a call and asked him what he thought about maybe consulting or going into business and starting a roofing company with
Oh, cool.
me. And it had just so happened that he was kind of in a good position to do that. I'll let him kind of explain that to you. So in a minute, but so we ended up starting where he was kind of consulting me and teaching me the business for 3 months. And then he decided that he didn't really like where he was at, and he came on board full time. So it's been a huge learning curve for me. The last year, I've just engulfed myself in nothing but roofing. And I have a very good mentor and general manager here to teach me. So
I love door knocking, guys. I do digital marketing for a living, as one of my businesses, but I think it's great. Wes, I wish that when I was younger, I had the balls to knock doors. I really do. I owned a home security company, and back in the day when I got started, there was two things that got knocked in Texas. Door got knocked. Well, three things. First thing, Jesus, roofs, and home security systems. right? So, yeah. So,
Sure.
but yeah, so those were the three things that a door was knocked on for. If your door got knocked on, it was one of those three things almost. Maybe pest control. Maybe those guys are always a pain knocking, but they're aggressive. Those pest control guys are the most aggressive out of all of them.
Well, that and the electric companies, you got the electric companies and the window companies now, and they're pretty they
maybe solar nowadays.
solar's becoming a big one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have massive respect. Now that I'm older, I could have door knocked. I think when I look back, I just had this mental block. I was scared of it. But door knocking is a huge thing. People quit door knocking during
COVID. Is the car door. You know, that's the hardest door to open. Is the car door to. You got to have it. It's really about confidence at the door.
How long have you been knocking doors for then on sales?
So I'll give just a quick little description on how I got into roofing and
Okay.
how it ended up was I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas. I am 34 years old. When I was 16, I moved with my mother to Ohio, actually. And my summer job up there, it's not so much of Hispanic crews. So I got on a roofing crew. So I actually started roofing
Cool.
for a couple summers. And when I came back to Houston, I thought, hey, while I go to school, I finished high school, while I go to college, I'm going to be a roofer. Not the case in Houston. I got introduced to somebody that owned a roofing company, and it was about selling the product. And I had never sold, I had just installed. And I really got handed a pack of business cards and a little script, and they said, go knock doors. And so that was when I was almost 19 years old, and I've knocked thousands of doors to this day every year. So I've never stopped knocking doors. It's it's a passion of mine. And the beautiful thing is you get to meet all sorts of people. It's a different experience with every customer, and there's a lot of psychology to it, to be honest, to be successful. But it is very
fun. So how many roofs do you normally sell in a storm year or a non-storm year?
So I would basically say I'm $1 million a year guy, residential sales. So I do about $1 million a year consistently. That's kind of the number I aim for.
Right.
Definitely room to grow, being under the right circumstances, because now I focus more on higher end homes. As you were saying, you know, I started really not knocking the very large homes because it was a mental block for me.
Yeah.
But once you realize you're good at what you do, you believe in the products and the crews that you use, it's a lot easier to approach $1 million, $2 million home now and really stand out.
Yeah, it's true. That's how I got into digital marketing, by the way, because I needed, back then I auto dialed back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've done that for real estate a lot.
That's tough.
Yeah.
No, it was fantastic. We had T1 lines, if you remember what those were, 21 lines. And I had like 3 T1s. I blasted DFW back when it was legal for home security systems. Bush called in the No Calls Act in 2004, and I had to do something and got into digital marketing. But I should have done digital marketing and door knocking at the same time. I should have done both of them. Like, I don't think someone should just door knock or just, you wrap your trucks, you do. I get into all this stuff on that, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're doing all of it, Jesse, anyway.
Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, he was doing $1 million knocking doors, and he hasn't done a lot of marketing, and so kind of coming together with his door knocking skills and me bringing the marketing to the table, especially with what you provide and other things. I mean, it's going to be a pretty nice thing.
So if you wrap all this together, this becomes a brand. Absolutely. And all the digital signaling come in. When Jesse, when Wes knocks a door, these guys are they're gonna search you guys online, which is more branded digital signaling. We were just talking about that before we started. So he knocks doors, or multiple people knock doors, and they'll go, "Who's Sargon Roofing?" And so now you work on the brand, and when the brand gets strong, you're going to close. It'll help him close more deals.
Absolutely.
Just having it's already the results are already showing that, which is good. We're on a very high trend, and it does take time to build anything, much less a brand. But we are starting to see the results after, a little after 6 months, and it's a good thing.
Some leads and a higher closing percentage through trust, because Wes, you come off great, but I'm about as skeptical as I get, and I'm definitely gonna go Google you.
Absolutely.
And we encourage that. I encourage that at the door. One of my last
Yeah.
things I always tell people is, hey, if you're interested, feel free to look us up online, check out our Facebook, our Google reviews. We want the feedback because ultimately we have confidence. We know that we're a good, solid company. And the more people that we ask to give any kind of feedback or look at us is just going to help. Every little hit on Google, I'm learning all of this because I really am heavily involved in a construction background, hands-on, remodel, roofing, and insurance claims. Not so much anything with marketing, but Jesse's a fantastic teacher, and I'm learning just as much as he's learning roofing. I'm learning about how to actually build a brand.
I mean, Wes, a lot of guys get abused, in my opinion, from the roofing companies and owners when they're a door knocker, because they'll just hire that door knocker and throw them to the wolves and say, hey, I need more money. And say, hey, well, go get to work, Wes. And you're like, if you don't have somebody backing you like Jesse with a brand and working on marketing, you know, you need that extra bit, even if it's just for the conversion of the brand. Because all this stuff kind of comes together. The most successful companies back in the day for home security, when I did this, there was something called the summer program. You know, I said, like, I wasn't kidding, like knocking doors is like Jesus roofing, and it was home security. And the most successful company was a company called Apex, APEX. And they were from Utah, and they were Mormons. And the Mormon group would grab the boys at one of the, I don't know if you're all aware, like, you know, the Mormon kids that go around, they do a 2-year sabbatical deal where they knock doors.
Yeah, on their mission.
What's that?
On their mission.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so these guys are incredibly thick-skinned, and they would take these guys and knock doors for home security, which was arguably easier than knocking doors for Jesus, you know, and they would do like a 300,000 to 400,000 alarm sales in what they called the summer program, because when those guys were out of college, the Mormon guys, they would knock doors and sell it. And they were just under ADT. That company became Vivint, which you've heard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they got it, because Vivint Home Security got into solar because solar got huge. But the backbone of all that stuff was door knocking, you know, and then it was a high quality guy, like a guy like Wes. It's like, Wes, you almost have like a military feel, like respectable feel. Were you in services at all? Did you go to the military or not?
I was not, no. Funny story, I was depped into the Air Force and got injured, cut my Achilles tendon about 2 days before I was going to be shipped to San Diego. So, but it all turned into a blessing.
You've got a disciplined feel to you, but they took this group of Mormon kids that were disciplined, and they just built one of the largest things that's ever. And I'm pretty sure that you guys probably heard this story, but Vivint Solar sold for like billions to somebody.
Yep.
Like
that's really what we're aiming now. He's just training the new canvassers we're bringing on. Well, they're sales guys, but canvassing is definitely a part of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jesse. I didn't mean to get off on time. Wes, I found that interesting, but
oh, you're good. No worries at all.
But yeah, you said you had a couple other things. We've got a bunch to talk about, but you said you had some interesting stuff to talk about. I don't know if you want to go over more business stuff, but I'm happy to talk about whatever.
Yeah, I don't. What were we?
I mean, just to give a little input. I mean, not to carry on about myself, but I actually had my own roofing company and construction company, and Hurricane Harvey hit, everybody's homes flooded, and I tried to switch to when really about business failures, and where I failed was I switched from a roofing company to, hey, not only did I want to help the community, I saw dollar signs and thought, I'm going to do home renovations and do all these flood homes. Well, with that comes a lot more stress, a lot more manpower, and then a lot more taxes. So my company, I'm not going to mention who it is, but I basically, when Jesse came along, it was time for me to get rid of that entity and combine with somebody in group where I had actually a support system, instead of thinking I was going to be Superman and doing this all on my own, because I was set up for failure to begin with because I couldn't scale. And Jesse really called me out of the blue And I mean, this is 5 years after I did
cold
his
called him.
roof. He cold called me. He's like, hey, you know, and I remembered him. I remember most of my customers, believe it or not. He's like, look, I'm trying to, you know, get some ideas and start a roofing company. And I was like, I have a little extra time to teach you. I can teach you what to do, and I can also teach you what not to do as a small business owner. And we kind of sat through that and started with consulting. And I left my job because I saw the potential in this. And I'm not a partner, I'm a general manager. I'd prefer to be an employee like this, but Jesse is really setting this thing up to scale.
Well, roofing is one of the few things that sometimes salespeople can make more than the owner. And I mean, and you don't have that deal. And if it makes you feel any better, Wes, I mean, I started when I was, God, I think 14, I pushed a mower up and down the road. My mother got married to my stepdad, and it's like my dad's a CPA, so I had this. I'm always happy that I was, you know, born into this a little high enough up to see, you know, to see around. So I wasn't, you know, born into a decent family. And then parents got divorced. I ended up having to work for myself. I was clear that he wasn't going to pay for me to go through college and all that. So I was out on my own by 17, painting curbs, mowing lawns. Pretty rough time. I still, when it gets cold, snap out and the grass quits growing, I still have some anxiety. I have some PTSD from mowing lawns because I had to live through Texas winters until spring.
Right.
And I lived in some really bad places, really places that one place I had was mice infested. And when I got older, I made a bunch of money when I was about 28, 29. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have good mentoring either. And I think I had 2.2 million in the bank. I sold up to 3,000 home security systems per year. It was after 9/11, 2001, America bought a lot of home security, not like it was going to protect against Al Qaeda or something, but everybody got freaked out, security conscious. And they bought security systems, and then it went up like this and then off a cliff. And when it went off that cliff, my expenses were high, and I spent most of my money trying to stay in business instead. And, you know, my experience with that was really similar to what a roofer goes through with a hailstorm or a hurricane for, you know, for Houston. And
be a roller coaster for sure.
It took a long time to figure it out, Wes. And I finally, at a little bit older age, it just seems like 1 year I went, it just twisted it, and it just dumped money differently to me. And then I invested differently and had a plan with money. That's one of the reasons I call this roofer's paradise, by the way. I lived in Maui for 3 years. My business started to kind of falter. I came back from Maui in 2018, and now I go back and forth, but I take care of my business first. But, you know, I look at this stuff as you know, making dreams happen, going the next level, traditional entrepreneurial type spirit on stuff. But it took a while is the point. I mean, it wasn't, I had a lot of errors down the road, and main thing I did was just keep going, keep fighting on stuff. But yeah, there's no shame and having something not work out. In fact, I think there's shame in not trying. And failing.
I mean, I had lost everything prior to this. Honestly, this is a rebuild.
What had you done before, Jesse? I don't think you might have hit on it.
Yeah, I had an oil and gas consulting company that, I mean, that just, it went to hell with COVID and the negative oil gas prices, you know. And then I got into a crawfish restaurant with basically a crook. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Basically a crook. So that didn't work out. And I was basically out 6 months of work where I worked really hard and made no money off of it. Right. And restaurant succeeded. So I had to move on, and that's how Sargon began. And it began from very little money, some investors, and we've grown it into something that's sustainable and self-running now, and it's great. Yeah.
Well, it's I think you picked a good business. I mean, I chose to work with roofers because out of all the stuff that I marketed, I liked working with a contractor, but a contractor isn't necessarily a business person. But at very least, and a roofer isn't necessarily not a contractor or a business person, but the roofer is at least typically an entrepreneur. You know, I get funny about the words of people call themselves a company. And like when I talk to, I don't tell roofers this when I'm talking to them, you know, to set them up with services, but I can kind of tell where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you know, someone will call and say, I need leads. And I'm like, well, I can get you leads by helping you build a brand. And they'll say, well, you know, it's like that guy's a contractor, you know, maybe people start out as like a subcontractor and they go to a contractor, then go to general contractor, kind of in the mentality of it. And eventually they become a company. And, you know, when you're
for sure,
when you're doing stuff like knocking doors, setting up organic digital web presences, working on a brand, a unique company name, that's somebody building a company, and it does pay dividends. It's just a little tougher to do it that way.
it takes time. It does. Yeah. It absolutely does. But I think the time is well spent, because eventually we'll be a company, and I will be able to take vacations. And, you know, that's, I want to buy my time back. And if it's setting all the systems and everything up first, then perfect. Let's do that.
Nolen Walker here for Roofers Paradise. So I'm looking for podcast guests for Roofers Paradise, and I'd like to hear from you. If you're a roofer or somebody in the industry that's looking to talk about their product, I'd like to hear from you. If you're a roofer and you want to tell your story, I'd love to speak with you. Also, we will blog and put a link back to your website, give you a little juice. It'll help you out, and it'd be great for you to get on here and tell your story and just to have it recorded. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Look us up on roofersparadise.show, email us, and we'll call you back.
I forgot the guy's name. What's the guy's name from Shark Tank that Mr. Wonderful?
Kevin.
Robert.
Oh,
I forget it.
Robert. Yeah, Robert. I don't know. Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember which one it is, but anyway, someone was asking him, what's the number one benefit of owning a business? He said, you know, time. You buy your time, freedom.
Yeah.
It's just not time, it's freedom. Because I work all the time. One thing that people misunderstand about business, in my opinion, and you have to fight your brain against it. There might be like 1 of 1,000 of us that can go run a massive company and not have things deteriorate. So what Wes experienced, which thanks for sharing, by the way, Wes, what he experienced, I experienced, Jesse probably experiences, is that it looks good when you're doing what I call barroom napkin calculations. Or, you know, someone says, oh, I did 1 roof. What if I did 1,000? We did 100, I could do 3,000. And when someone begins to go, I'm going to go from Houston to Dallas, Fort Worth to Austin to San Antonio, and I like the look of Midland, Odessa, because there was a storm out there, and they start popping locations, the expense structure goes straight up a cliff, and the conversion and all that goes straight down the cliff. And those things converge into negative profits typically.
Quality of your work goes unmanaged, and then you're looking for crews that you don't know because your local crews are not willing to go there. I like that we're in the Houston market because there's 6-7 million people here, and if you
don't have to go anywhere.
You don't have to travel if you're good at what you do in Houston, and I've learned that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're
the
not,
hard way.
We're not just insurance. I mean, I would say this last year, 60% of our business has been retail.
Cash roof.
Cash roof.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we know our costs, and we have to hit our certain margin, and that's the price.
So when you're waiting for that storm to hit and you become branded, it is an exponentially different thing. So when you are branded and it's either off season or no storm, it goes down, but the low isn't as low, and the highs are higher.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually that stuff hits, and then normally, and Wes has always experienced hitting the streets, which is again great. I really think that all roofers, even if they don't door knock, you know, thousands of houses per year for each door knocker, you know, have people that just canvas. They should at least be doing what they call the 6-pack or the 8-pack.
Absolutely, yeah.
100%.
I mean, at very least, and the owner, in my opinion, and this is from me making mistakes, by the way. I know I left millions on the table back in the home securities days. I sold 23,000 alarm systems just from digital.
That's phenomenal.
Inbound calls. Yeah, we would sell those, bundle them up, and I'd sell thousands of them at a time, and then make like a net profit, the difference in what I had in them. and the multiple I sold them at. But
inbound leads are the best leads for sure.
they are the best. Yeah, you can sell them quick. They don't tend to shop. But I should have door knocked. I absolutely should have door knocked. And I would encourage every business, anybody listening to this that's a roofer, if you're scared of door knocking or scared of opening up your QuickBooks or scared of looking at your, I mean, I remember times, and by the way, guys, where I was just scared to look at my bank account, and it's my bank account. And it's like, I know that it was tight, and I'd be scared to log on online to stare at my bank, much less reconcile it, you know, just to like stare at it and go, oh, and to this day, even though I have money to pay my bills, I will procrastinate my monthly bill payment. I won't let the CPA pay my bills for me because I want to see the debits and the credits in there. And even if I don't go like you guys, and I'm going to get into this on some other podcasts, but y'all have to job cost. Otherwise you'll go broke.
We absolutely job cost.
Wes needs to know how much profit was in a job.
Oh yeah.
Jesse needs to know what the trends are for getting jobs. Y'all need to check your closing ratios, see where you're at. There's some sort of perfect equilibrium and convergence of how much you charge, how much you can, net profit on the deal. But y'all have to job cost. For me, the way Marty and I have money in, money out, it's a little easier for me. I don't have to job cost that stuff out as hardcore. But yeah, I remember, just avoiding major categories a business owner should not avoid: taxes, bank accounts, reconciliations, job costing, sales, like stinking sales. Wes, once when I was, oh gosh, it was 2004 or 5. It was several years after 9/11. I had a call center, I quit selling. I was the first guy to sell everything on the phone I was selling. And then something weird tricked in my head, tipped over. And I'm sure y'all seen this before. I know Wes has just seen this with a guy. I just quit selling. And then I was anxiety stricken to pick up the phone again and sell. Have you seen that happen to a door knocker?
I have seen that happen. And I think that everybody, you can go into a phase of that on your own too, every now and then. And I think it really just staying focused, to be honest. I mean, I know that's kind of cliche, but if you just go back to your goals, it's going to force you to go and knock the doors. And you said it, like every owner, Jesse's knocking doors.
I was going to ask you, Jesse, are you knocking doors?
Absolutely. Yeah, I knock a lot of doors. I mean, if I drive in a neighborhood and see a roof, I'm pulling over, knocking their door.
As my grandpa used to say when he was alive, Jesse, you don't get too big for your britches once you start making money. Or the wrinkles out of your belly. If you want to keep making money, expenses stay low. You stay humble. You're in humble, so you should be fine with that, right? Stay grounded and keep expenses low and still do the dirty work. So I'm doing a podcast. You guys, we're all up here doing something. And for the record, Jesse says his first podcast he's done, but he's doing it, so we're all willing to do what it takes to make our company better. And that hard stuff like knocking a door, Jesse, good for you. Had you knocked doors before, Jesse, before this?
No. I mean, a little bit real estate, but those were very targeted knocks, so no, not really. And we're doing door knocking. I mean, I print letters out and me and girlfriends sign them and write out letters all the time, direct mail. I mean, we're doing everything. And it's all basically from right here, so it's pretty interesting. I mean,
Jesse, this is off a little bit, but I know how to I know how to bulk and tray mail, take it to my bulk mail center. I still have, and I need to, I threw it away finally. It was so old. Because back in the day when I did home security, we'd get the new homeowners list, right? Yeah. So I had a RENA, RENA imaging system, and I would order my postcards in bulk, like 50,000 of them. Mm-hmm. And then I would get my software put together and then shoot them through, like they just go, and we'd tray and stack them up and get all these little rollers, and they had to have the glue on, and it was so temperamental, but it was very therapeutic because I'm a little ADHD, and if you don't focus on that direct mail system shooting off the addresses, it'll like you have to put more in and they'll bunch up and you take them and tray them up and you have like 1 foot trays and 2 foot trays. It's still this way. And you can do ECR WSS, enhanced carrier route walking sequence saturation. That's every single door in the mail carrier routes route. That's easier. You don't have to tray them because you can just say current residents, ECR WSS, and then you weigh them and you put them in trays, and that postal man and woman takes them to every door. So you can do that. But when you do those tray ups yourself, you know damn well they went out. You control the cost of it. Now it's more expensive than going in like a Valpak or money mailer or something. And by the way, just for the record, I'm not huge on print anymore, but if you guys find that print's working for you, you definitely should at least check. Don't go buy the system yet, but you can print up and learn how to do an ECR WSS, an enhanced carrier route walking sequence saturation, and then take them in, and then that stuff went out.
We actually handwrite the envelopes for the neighborhood, and I think the open rate is we've gotten a couple roofs from those letters. So.
I agree that it would be. It's just tough. I was looking to buy a lake house not too long ago, and nothing was for sale, of course, after COVID.
Yep.
I didn't get a lake house, but I had people respond, and the whole family sat around and did handwritten envelopes. I printed off the letter and signed it.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, but I agree with you. The opener, there is some software too where you can, but you can tell it's not real, but you can have it look like a handwritten envelope.
For sure.
It's interesting, and try that ECR WSS.
I absolutely will. I'm definitely going to check that out. We're just trying to honestly hit it every way we can. I've thought about hiring VAs and doing cold calls like I did for real estate as well.
Let me tell you a story about a guy in Georgetown, outside of Austin. So in 2019, maybe 18 or 19, a hailstorm hit outside of Austin in a town called Georgetown, Texas. If it had been that year, you would have heard about it through Hail Trace or just a community. We had a client in that area, and it was interesting. I don't do this anymore, but I used to listen to the calls, and we charged by the lead. So here's what happened with this guy. And if you want, in my opinion, this is like the perfect model. In the beginning of a brand, this is just from years of me doing this, in the beginning of a brand for a company, they might get all their business off of digital or door knocking, right? As the brand moves forward and gets branded, like as the company moves forward and actually gets branded and it's done properly. So the reason I think that Georgetown was a little further away from Austin than Humble is from Houston. Okay. Yep. So it was more of this separated community, but they could still work Austin if they want to. So they're out there working, and a hailstorm hits actually just outside of Georgetown. I think it wasn't Sunnyvale, but it was something. It hit part of Georgetown, but this other little town, and every roof in the whole area got replaced. So it wasn't a massive spread, but you probably saw 10,000 roofs get replaced, or 20,000 roofs get replaced. His phone rang like 300 times the first day, 300 times the second day, 300 times the third day, and then it went to 200 times for 3 days, 100 times for 3 days, and then it was 80 for a week, daily. I'm talking 50 for a week, 40 for a week, 30.
We're tired of.
Yeah, it was crazy, but I want to explain to you the mixture of the leads. And this is, since we're talking about this, and you said you've been doing this for about a year. Mm-hmm. He had wrap trucks. Mm-hmm. He had $100 neighbor referrals. He had a little next door advertising that didn't do much. He had a little bit even on Google ads that didn't do much either. I didn't ever hear about those because we're listening to every single call. I had a problem in my business right around this time. Actually, I changed some structure in my business. Little things in business, like who answers the phone will bankrupt your ass, just bankrupt your ass. So I remember I was worried about who was listening to these leads, and I just happened to check because the lady said a hailstorm hit here, and I spot checked a lead, and I'm like, a hailstorm hit? Well, they got 9 leads they're paying for. I said, oh, that's great. And I went in and listened to leads, and the guy that was listening to leads who wasn't paid besides hourly didn't listen to 21 other leads that day. So there was like, in the very first day, I'm talking like the wee hours, like that many calls came.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy had cost me the lead fee on, like, it was a lot, like $2,100. And so I fired that guy and started listening. My wife and I listened to all these leads, but it was an interesting exercise because you probably get all of it off of this. And a lot of guys are like, I'll make a point here, but I'm gonna make a good point. I got somebody looking for, somebody emailed me and said, looking for strong maps listings. You can't get strong map listings just by focusing on maps. So he's talking about Google business profiles. It's reputation reviews, websites, and all kinds of stuff. So the point in the analogy is this guy out of Georgetown had wrapped up this phenomenal brand of his company in this little microcosm of a town. People from church knew him. He had a very prolific estimator like Wes, who a lot of people knew. I mean, this guy, the Wes's equivalent, was known at the church and known by the neighbors. I mean, a lot, like I think like 5% of the people that were leaving messages knew this guy. There was talk about the church. There was talk about neighbor referrals. There was talk about the yard sign in the yards. There was talk about the wrapped trucks being seen in the neighborhoods. Neighbor referrals, again, even without the $100 neighbor referral fee. There was, of course, the website and then some other marketing. The guy oddly didn't do a ton of paid advertising. Like you didn't see much Google. He had a little Google ad, but it did almost nothing. He had a little Nextdoor ad, it did almost nothing. Most of it, so roughly about 20% of this came from digital marketing. Most people would experience like 80% from digital marketing, by the way, just so you know. But a healthy brand during a storm is going to pull from everything. It's not that he didn't get a ton from the digital marketing. It's just that he was hitting on all these other points, and it was shocking where they all came from. So, and I don't, he had picked this area to dominate, and it was trucks and Goodwill and church and Chamber of Commerce and $100 referral fees and yard signs and six-pack door knocking, the neighbor's door knocking and everything. And of course, digital marketing, map placement, organic optimization, reputation reviews, and it all converged into this guy. I don't know how much money he made, but it was a phenomenal thing. It was a phenomenal thing.
I love that story.
Especially being able to corner a smaller market like Georgetown. I'm fairly familiar with it. The area, my dad's got property there. It's a very tight-knit community. So him having somebody local in his group and then the combination of everything, he pretty much, I would assume, cornered that market for the most part.
Wes, I don't know what church it was, but he definitely went to church. I mean, as a roofer, and I know it's church, but I'm going to do this if it's me. I'm driving my F-250 jacked with my wrap on it and parked it at the back of the parking lot when I go to church. I'm just
everybody needs to see it. Very small.
We just got done doing a church, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We got done doing a church that a contractor went and bid, and they bid 105 square roof for $32,000, and then came back and tried to get 40,000 more for a redeck.
Yeah, over double. And they had actually already torn the roof off in the church called Jesse. And very cool story because it does show you that having quality crews and the name out there that you're going to do good work matters, because we were able to do the complete roof with new decking for a little over 45,000 instead of them having to pay 70. And we were able to come in. I mean, these people still had their sign up and their banner up. And
everything, roof was torn down to the deck.
Roof was torn down to the deck. So they really did the hard part for us. I mean, they had already torn off the roof and hauled it away. But there are companies, and that's really kind of where we stand out, that we really are. I mean, everybody always says they're about integrity and I don't really, and that's the sad part, and why roofing companies have gotten a bad rap is because most of them are just selling that word instead of meaning it. And that's kind of the difference of being it all comes down to, I guess, the greedy contractors will use that word and not mean it. And we actually
I agree. I don't speak to that as many people like that, Wes, because I do provide high-end services, but my industry's marketing is worse than y'all's actually.
Oh,
I couldn't
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
imagine.
Marketing is,
Um,
yeah, it is. I mean, I'm sure I know for a fact that you deal with it every day. Contractors coming to you that just got screwed by a marketing.
every single one of them, actually.
I've heard
They're-
that, yeah.
I've seen it
And I mean,
multiple companies.
just, I mean, yeah, hell, to promote you, I mean, you are a quarter of the cost of most marketing companies. I mean, it is crazy what they charge for things that do nothing.
Well, it's some guy sitting at home with a high-end sales routine. We make, anyway, it's been 12 years now that I've been doing it. But yeah, it's interesting to talk about the mixture of the branding and the way it comes together as far as it. And any roofer that stays in business long-term does get hardcore on the topic of business ethics and integrity. And they believe in their products that they sell and their roofing systems that they adhere to. And if you don't do that, you're not going to stay in business. What's that?
I said, it's hard to sell it if you don't believe in it.
It is. Yeah. And it's hard to stay in business with all the new things on digital. People, 20 years ago, you could have just done it. But that's why, y'all know, that's why we have 3-day right of rescission in Texas. And I'm pretty sure that it came from siding companies screwing old ladies. Like they would come in and have them sign a contract, knock their door, sell them siding. They'd get bullied into it, literally, like an old woman would get bullied into it. And then they'd be stuck with this agreement. And I'm pretty sure that's where 3-day right of rescission came from.
Interesting.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Low integrity contractors taking advantage of old people.
We
And
see
it
it, we
happens
see it every day.
every-
I'm not every day, but once a week, twice a month for sure. We see it. I mean, it's very rampant down here.
Was that a shingle roof on that, on the church? What'd you do?
Majority of it there was about 3 squares of flat roof above the kitchen.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What type of commercial stuff are you into? Anything at all? Are you trying to get into any?
Yeah, we do some TPO.
Yep.
If we can find it. Materials are very hard to come by when it comes to the ISO, the insulation foam board, some modified bitumen, torch down. We haven't really gotten too much into EPDM, but we also do standing seam. And there's a new product, a very high grade shingle, pretty much equivalent to a synthetic slate that we're dabbling into.
Da Vinci? Is it the Da Vinci product or?
We're gonna be installing the
F-Wave.
F-Wave, yeah.
F-Wave?
Yeah, we've sold one of them and we're pretty excited to install that, so.
I
The
like the
install-
sound.
Yeah, the install method is just as easy as an architectural shingle, but it's been tested. It's class 4 impact resistant, class 5 fire rated, and then it's been tested with shotguns.
Yeah,
You
they
can't
shoot it
even-
with a shotgun.
It's pretty cool videos on YouTube,
Yeah,
kind of pumping up F-Wave there, but I'm sold on it and I'm very picky on.
Does it
anything
look like a slate roof when you're done with it, pretty much?
yeah, they have a couple different styles, but yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful shingle. It really is.
How much more does it cost you on
Not double.
right at double of a 30-year laminated shingle. But you're going to get 40 years out of the roof, and then the tax benefits, the insurance benefits as well. So it can almost pay for itself slowly. But
What
surely.
impact resistance level is that?
Class 4.
Yep, class 4 and class 5 fire resistant.
I mean, I live in like a 3,000 square foot 1970s ranch style house that had been remodeled. And I think I saved like $2,500 a year. I'm with USAA for having a level 4 impact resistant roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's a-
substantial,
it's a huge-
2,500 a year.
Well, USA costs a little more, but they take care of their,
Right.
I'm a big fan of theirs, but they do cost a little bit more, but they take care of you if something happens. But I do save $2,500 a
That
month.
kind of
for-
money.
We'll be
Get that.
meeting USAA today.
Yeah, today.
I like them. I mean, my dad was in military, so I wasn't, but
They're not treating this homeowner very well, but
They're-
I'm not saying that's USA all around. The whole neighborhood's gotten new roofs from a hailstorm and they denied these people.
Well, that's not good. Don't
No.
tell me that. Don't tell me that, man. Maybe they've gone to the dark side on corporate.
I'll let you know this
Yeah,
afternoon how it goes.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
All right. All right.
Info, maybe if you want some info that I won't share on the podcast.
Unfortunately, my podcast does not have enough pull at this point, guys, to sway USA to approve your claim. I don't think, but
through the grapevine and
Nolen Walker, Roofer's Paradise, gonna dog you guys. You don't, yeah.
The roofing community kind of through the grapevine is we've found out that a former CEO of Allstate a few years ago switched over to USAA. So things over the last couple of years have, and I have personally seen it, but there are still plenty of good USAA independent adjusters where they do right. So it is, it's a game. I mean, it's luck of the draw. At the end of the day, if you get a fair adjuster that knows what they're doing, you're going to get taken care of. And if you don't, then you're just going to have to put up a little bit more of a battle to get the insurance to properly indemnify.
When you say put up a battle, do you guys ever go a legal route with these deals?
I'm an appraiser, so there's a few different routes that you can take when you get denied. You can take it on the chin. You can go to appraisal, where the insurance company hires a third-party appraiser, and so does the homeowner.
Right.
I am an appraiser, so I've been on over about 70 of those in my career. Or you can go the public adjuster route or lawyer. Public adjusters, I can, in my opinion, I can do just as much as they can, except speak of the legal terminology. So
they get away with a little more.
They cost 10% of the claim. So I think that they're just using some legal terminology to get more money than they deserve, in my opinion. That's, my opinion. I think the appraisal route's more fair. It's cheaper and it's faster for the homeowner. If there is legitimate damage, appraisal always works. Lawyers, hey, sometimes you have to have lawyers after major catastrophic hurricanes. They'll get you the money. It's just going to take 2 years,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Nolen Walker here for Roofing Webmasters. You may not know, but I own a digital marketing agency named Roofing Webmasters. We've been doing this for 12 years. I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of roofers. We've got hundreds of satisfied clients right now, and we'd love to add you to our client mix. I tell you what, we'll help you with your design, your content, your code base, your SEO, your ranking on Google, your map ranking, all that stuff. We also have software called DataPens that we wrap into it. We are one of the only legit agencies out there that actually help people. Everybody that we have is month to month for a monthly fee on an ongoing basis. You'll get an assigned account rep, and our team of 15 people will help you get as dominant as we can. If you've never had proper digital marketing agency support, you owe it to yourself to call us at Roofing Webmasters or email. Look us up online, roofingwebmasters.com, and give us a call when you're ready.
So, Jesse, you said you had an interesting story or two. I like to have maybe we already went over them. I don't know, but I know you guys run into just anything and everything in business, and I like to ask if somebody has a good story.
We do. We have a good roof story to tell you. So we got called for a second opinion from an insurance company to go look at a roof 2 weeks ago. And we hopped up on this roof, and 90% of the roof was creased, literally perfect.
Thankfully, we had put the drone up in the air before getting on the roof because we have our photos timestamped with this. So we did a drone inspection first.
Okay.
And then we set the ladder up. And I'll let Jesse continue, but it was important to know that we had the drone pictures up first.
I don't know what's going on, but I mean, this actually was a reference from this guy's church, believe it or not. And the guy got up there and like perfectly creased every face of the roof. I mean,
man-made damage.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%.
Creased. Explain creased, please.
They're taking the shingle and physically busting the seal and lifting the shingle and flipping it over all the way to where it almost snaps, and then laying it back down, making a perfect horizontal crease. Now that does happen sometimes with wind, but it's very obvious when it's on every single slope and it's in the perfect positions where when you're walking on the roof, it's the accessible areas.
How old was the roof? It was
This roof was
10
only
years?
10 to 11, it was 10
10
or
years
11 years
old,
old.
yeah.
So this be like somebody taking a ball peen hammer to their car
Exactly.
after a hailstorm.
And this roofing company was convincing the homeowner, they weren't home when this roofer inspected the roof, right? Vandalized the
Wow.
roof.
So the roofer did it. not the
Correct.
homeowner.
Yeah.
So the roofer
Wow.
did it and then tried to have the homeowner file a claim. Well, it just so happened that I knew the carrier's broker said, hey, we're the broker. We need you to go look at this because it's way too new of a roof to have this type, the damage that they're saying. And I said, sure, I'm going to give you my professional opinion. That's where we got called. And immediately, as soon as I stepped on the roof, I had the homeowner come outside because we scheduled the inspection when the homeowner was there because there are companies
so
that
obvious.
vandalize roofs, right? And I said, look, I'm going to come down and I'm going to show you these pictures. And it ended up being that they're not going to file a claim for wind damage because there's no wind damage. They had to file a claim for vandalism and the police got involved because that is
Wow.
fraud.
Yeah.
So the insurance company is going to pay for the roof and then they are going to sue the roofing company.
Wow.
We get a free job out of it because we are honest and gave the honest opinion and we documented all of this for the carrier. So we helped the carrier tremendously in making the case
Get
against
these
the
guys
contractor.
out of the scene. So have you ever seen this before? Either one
I've
of you?
seen it for the last, I can personally tell you, and I won't name names.
On that big of a scale though, that they did to this roof, I mean, it was.
That was pretty bad, but I mean, there are companies and that train their salesmen to do whatever they can to get the roof bought, meaning
Wow.
tear off shingles, flip up shingles, create dents. It is a big problem in the industry. And this is why insurance companies are now forcing homeowners to prove that they pay their deductible. Because there's just so much, there's so much bad things going on both the carrier.
I'm
and
naive. I didn't realize that sort of stuff was going on a roof. I didn't.
I mean, there are literally forums and groups on Facebook of adjusters and they sit back and show pictures of this happening all day long, and that's all they talk about.
You should check out Level the Playing Field on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, level the playing field.
It's a very good group.
Y'all ever watched Best Damn Roofer?
Yeah, I do all the time. Yeah.
So that type of guy coming out, you know.
Yeah.
and doing your-
Man, Nolan, it was so bad.
This circumstance was so obvious that it was really sad because you know, the contractor isn't doing a homeowner any favors by doing that to a roof that doesn't need to be replaced. It didn't need even any maintenance.
No adjuster would have bought that roof.
So to create
They would have known
30,
immediately.
I mean, this is a $30,000 roof. Just because you're desperate for work and you haven't built your own brand, you should get out of the industry. If you have to do that and anywhere in any business, then you shouldn't belong here. And
Needs to get a hold of web marketers.
and honestly,
I don't need that guy. I don't need that guy.
I'm just kidding.
on a personal level, we'll do what it takes to protect our name and to make sure that those bad apples get out of the industry because they don't be here.
I wish we would put licenses in Texas. I'm not being an unpopular opinion, but I
100%.
really do. It would kind of get a lot of the riffraff out of here.
Yeah,
might,
it's just
I
the
don't
wild,
know.
wild west. I mean, you don't have to have, heck, you don't have to even have insurance, unfortunately, here. There's no such thing as a roofing license here. Or, I mean, so anybody and everybody can become a roofing company. And there's where the bad apples kind of start from.
Yeah. I mean, you build a brand, you set yourself apart, you know, and you get out of it. But, and when I was in home security, this company, these guys went to jail. They would pay people that looked disreputable to sit down at the end of the streets and drink 40 ounces of beer and crank up music that the gentrified people in the neighborhood did not like. And then they would door knock that neighborhood the next day. And they would
not real.
they would sell a ton of security systems, but they went to jail.
Yeah, that's one way to approach it.
It was a long time ago, that story. So Jesse or Wes, are y'all going to be getting like a crew of 5 guys or 10 guys with a maxi van and dropping people off to door knock? Like, how far are you taking door knocking? Like, what do you plan on doing? I'm
Well,
curious.
so we kind of tried to hire some canvassers and we haven't, I'm going to be honest, we haven't quite perfected that yet. So right now we're just hiring sales guys. Eventually I would like to have the van and a group of canvassers, but I need to work that out and how we're going to train them and manage them a little better. I don't quite have that ironed out yet.
And the hard part in my perspective is when you're knocking and a canvasser, a true canvasser really is setting appointments, but they have to grasp the concept of a few things. And it's really hard finding good educated people that want to work right now. And I like the approach where we're trying to hire sales sales reps, because it's a more educated approach.
We're putting them through 3 weeks of training.
They're going through a training one-on-one with me. There's a lot of training videos. There's a lot of a program, but taking the more educated approach, hiring 1 or 2 at a time. That way you just don't have a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing out there on the streets, because if a homeowner asks even a canvasser at their door a few questions and they don't know the answer. And
yeah, I kind of struggle with that, with do we want just people pushing marketing material out there that can't answer questions, or do we want people that have knowledge pushing marketing material, and it's 2 separate business models.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm really not sure which way I want to go. I think I want to keep it smaller and keep more knowledgeable sales guys out in the field. That's probably the
I kind of tend to agree. I will at least say this, that if expenses aren't kept low, you'll never make any money. You can have the same exact business. I never made, always used to joke about, I'm getting older to be making these type of references, but people would thought I made so much money back in the day that I was like snorting coke and like, had a blonde bimbo on the side and a Ferrari. I didn't do any of that sort of Wolf of Wall Street crap, like none of it. I was a straight laced guy. It was small, stupid stuff. Like I expanded and got 3 guys to answer the phone instead of me and 1 guy answer the phone. Maybe I had 4 guys answer the phone. It was me and 1 other guy. I rented out half the floor of a Wells Fargo tower, like 12-story building. I was half of it. So it was an ego move.
Yeah.
And I moved from my crappy little office 2 floor on the 2nd floor. They ran a nursing school, and down below they had like check cashing and like day labor stuff. And there was a Popeyes fried chicken and somebody turning tricks like a block away, but it was cheap as hell. It was seriously, that was my first spot. And I made a fortune when I was in that little bitty crappy office building. I hired people to answer the phone. I got my own accountant, bookkeeper guy in.
Yeah, your just expenses and overhead just shot through.
Ate my lunch with little here, little there, loss of conversion, me getting scared to sell, like all this stuff. Like if I did ever let anybody pick up the phone for me again, which I'm like, you get ruined at some point. People come up to you and they'll say, well, Jesse, you need to, what you're working on Saturday, Sundays, it's like, hey man, I do what I need to do. And they go, well, you need to hire some people and delegate. And like the people telling you this is some punk on Instagram or that has no business, or some guy that works for somebody. And you're like, well, what the hell do you know about telling me how to run stuff? But you'll listen to them and you'll be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get something. It's like, okay, that's Wes, and Wes, you may do a great job, but if Jesse never comes and door knocks again, I mean, it's not a good way to manage the business. At very least, he knows your pain points. He knows like he's doing stuff that's helpful. It's going to be hard for Wes to ever want to go do something different if Jesse, you're backing him like this, because eventually all this brand building is going to throw leads at it.
Oh, right. And this was a big commitment for not only Jesse, but it was for myself, and it was a long-term commitment because I've been doing this almost 16 years and I have a lot of experience, and I could make more money. There's no question about it. I get paid well, but I could make a lot more money if I was just a salesman for anybody. And that's all I did. But I like to educate people on the right way to do things, especially when it comes to roofing, because there's a lot of horror stories on bad roofs being installed, and there's a lot of salesmen running around that don't know anything and convincing people to make claims that aren't necessarily need to be made. And I like to teach it. I have like some kind of knack for wanting people to learn.
And honestly, when the two of us are at a door, our close rate is ridiculous.
Yeah,
if we both hit the door together, it's insane. We close.
Yeah.
It's
well
not
into
good cop,
the 85% together.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very high percent.
Who's the good cop? Who's the bad cop, Wes?
Oh, it's not a good cop. It's not a good cop.
Yeah,
It's
it's
good
play
cop,
off
good
each
cop.
other. Yeah, no, it's not that.
It's I start talking a lot about construction and insurance claims if they have a claim, and Jesse talks about business and what he's done and
anything
where
but.
They get both. They get the construction side, they get the business side, and they feel comfortable.
and
Yep.
it's easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when we're together, it's a force at the door that
People will tell me, guys, a lot of times they're like, Nolen, I went with you because you seem knowledgeable and honest. And I'm like, that's because I'm knowledgeable and honest. But but people don't realize, like, for someone to convey that, you can trick somebody sometimes. There are a few people, somebody that works for me corrected me on this, and I do agree with him. Someone can get so slick of a huckster, jackass sales guy that he can trick somebody, but it's difficult. Most of the time, someone becomes, someone that you like, that you're engaged with, that you trust, because they're an expert in what they do and manage their business well. And human beings can just feel it. And it typically is correct. A gut feel on somebody like that is typically correct. If you if you sleep on it and you wake up and you don't have any weird feelings about it, probably because they're skilled and knowledgeable and going to do a good job for you. So,
And I think with all the social media and just all the different platforms, it is harder for those tricksters to trick people nowadays, because
it's
much easier to be outed.
Yeah, it's a lot. Exactly. It's a lot easier for them to look you up and see one comment or one review or what, and you're out of there, because that's what I like about us. We don't have any of those negative comments or reviews.
On the other side of that token, it's also a lot of things are pay to play. So you can get around a lot of negative stuff pretty easily nowadays too. So it's kind of balanced out, like I would have to say Better Business Bureau is 100% pay to play. I don't trust that thing at all.
I don't know how old you are, Jesse, but I think they're scoundrels. They used to hold us hostage. It was like the mafia of reviews. They only took bad reviews. They held you hostage for money. If you told them you had more employees, they had like a 2-tiered algorithm. Pay us more money and tell us you have more employees and accept more bad reviews. And if you paid them more money and told them you had 100 employees, you could have more bad reviews and still have an A rating. That was it. Yeah. And then you have to go to their little council to get a review removed. Someone that was just extorting you to take money away from you by using a BBB.
Like Angie's List, that's extortion. I mean, the amount of money it's like,
this is just a scam.
What are y'all talking about?
Y'all eventually get a bad review, but as long as you've got a review program, which y'all have one in place now, and then I would recommend. I'll tell you a couple of things. We'll wrap up in like 10 minutes or less here, but let me give you a few things. You'll eventually get a bad review, even if it's what we just talked about. Someone's trying to extort you to get money off, for example, and they're like, "I'm going to trash you if you don't."
We had one. Wesley some lady got mad at Wesley for driving and wrote us a bad review, and I had to call her and say, "Lady, this is my business."
No. It was different.
Oh yeah, it was a dog.
This was about a dog grooming company. This is a funny story.
Let's not go. Actually, let's not go into that.
I left her a bad review on a dog grooming company, which she deserved because it was bad business. So she decided to get on my Facebook and see what company I worked for,
and then left us
a bad review.
She took it down.
She took it down because I took mine down, but still.
I don't leave bad reviews for people, guys, because of that. Because I can't. I'm normally an even-keeled guy. At 49, I don't pop off much anymore, but I used to pop off a little bit. I want to give myself some time. Since I review and I literally run review software, I don't want to abuse my ability to do that. And then second, thirdly, I don't want to have some sort of retaliatory effort against my own company.
It was a bad move on my part, and I didn't even think when I was leaving the review, oh, Sargon Roofing's about to get a bad review because I'm the
so
general
you got
manager.
like a Dumb and Dumber grooming on your dog, Wes. And you got personally upset about it. I don't blame you, man.
No,
Well, she canceled the
she
appointment
didn't
on
even
him.
come.
Yeah.
I had the appointment set and it was canceled, and she said it doesn't matter. What I did learn is, even if I'm upset, there's no reason to leave a bad review because it can come back and bite you in the butt.
Stuff will happen like that, but if you have a review system in place, those will be fine. People expect something here and there. And then in that case, if you don't know where it came from, like this didn't even have anything to do with their business. But if you're getting tons of reviews, they'll bury.
Right.
Jesse, I recommend that every single client, so we already have data pens and you shoot off an email and a text, and you ask for it in person. I used to have something I would review with people. I hadn't done this in a long time. It's like Nolen's 5 points of review success is like ask. I used to call it a cross between like Fonzie and Bill Clinton, like a good old boy, like text, like, hey man, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Like you ask them, a Texas thank you, ask them in person sincerely. You hand them a piece of paper, like a card or something, say, hey, man, if you go here, it can be a card and you can click and leave us a review, Google review or whatever. We sure would appreciate it. So a good old boy, please. And then they get a text, and they get an email. That's 4. And then you follow it up with one phone call and be done with it after that. Say, hey, your roof went on about, several days. Is everything great? And go, yeah, everything's good. Man, I hate to ask you again, Jesse, but I live by these reviews, man. Now you're tugging on their heartstrings a little bit. I live when people review me, it helps show up better and helps people find us online. And I know it's a little bit of an inconvenience. I'll shoot you a text one more time so you have the link and you can do that straight from
Yep.
But I won't bug you again. But if you have anything annoying neighbors, friends that need a roof, just keep us in mind. Thank you so much. And then you do Nolen's 5 points of review success, get as many as you can. And that's going to help push everything, up on those reviews.
I like
That's
that
a beautiful
a lot.
system.
Yeah, I like that.
I personally think it's harder to, even when we do a great job and these people are thrilled, it's harder to get the damn review than it is to sell the job.
It is.
Even though they love the job.
So 1 out of 10 people, but with data, when you use data pens, everybody gives you organic credibility. You get the digital hand raise with the geo coordinate. You get the caption that you leave, and you get the pictures of the job put right onto the individual pages on the website. So no matter what, they're going to give you organic benefits. So you don't have to be as sour at them for not leaving a review.
Right.
But I would call and ask everybody for one. But yeah, it's tough to get a review, but it's worth going over it to me. And then Jesse, you get that quality checkup too. If something did go wrong, like, man, these guys left nails everywhere. I got my tires flat. They crushed my azaleas, I got some shingles they hid underneath my, they hid a couple of pallets of shingles underneath my leaves in the back of the yard, and then charged you extra for an extra square or something. I don't know, whatever but you'll hear about it, if there's a problem with it, and it'll help you manage. But, and I'll say this too. I have a coach that I meet with every Wednesday. I talk about coaching stuff a lot. I think it's extremely important, but my guy, what changed me, and I've had this coach for about 5 years now, was his big deal was anchor to your dreams. And I'll leave it with this because I don't think I've discussed this yet in a podcast, but Roofer's Paradise. I went at 49 years old, and you talk about failing and picking yourself up and going at it again. I was pretty disillusioned at about 44, 43, 44. I had come back from Hawaii. I'm like, I'm back again. I got kicked out. I feel like I failed to some degree. And anchored to my dreams was to literally like take money that I make and anchor it through my dreams. So financial investments, I have stuff that makes sense to me and makes me have purpose for why I work. So if you just make money, that's what happened to me back in 2004 or 5. I was making a ton and I got off track. was still making money, but I didn't have an investment plan at all. So when money was made, it was just set there, or money tends to go away. It was an old saying, you know, a fool and his money soon part, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so I didn't have the right mentorship. I wasn't getting coached. And so when I make money now, I have it earmarked for something. I'm careful about my expenditures before I get something that'll pay. The Robert Kiyosaki, I talk about him a lot. I love that guy because he's so raw and basic, but you buy an asset first and then you buy your toy, right?
Yeah, your asset pays for your toy.
Your asset pays for the toy. And if you can buy a few toys, or if it's health related, fine. But once you have basic needs met, if you keep spending it to upgrade your lifestyle before investing, you're constantly on the treadmill. And then one day you wake up and you don't feel like going into work.
Nolen Walker here for DataPins, DATAPINS, that's datapins.com. It is software that was literally made for a roofer for ultimate organic domination. You can put it on every phone you have out in the field. There's also a desktop version of it. Anybody can use it. It takes 90 seconds. You take up to 6 photos of a job, write a quick caption like roof replacement with GAF HD timberline shingles. You put in your client's cell phone and or email and tag your roof replacement page and your city page and hit pin. It automatically grabs the geo coordinates, wraps it in schema. Looks like a red pin drop, but to Google, it looks like a digital hand raise. Hey Google, we were here. By the way, here's several photos of the job, which by the way count as unique content. And here's what we did, a roof replacement with GAF HD timberline shingles. Also, it posts back to the Google account itself with the caption and the photos, and it shoots an email and text back to the client saying, please review us on Google or BBB with a couple of links and choices of review sites. All this is awesome stuff. So now regularly, imagine having this done 30 times, 50 times a month, and Google sees fresh content, fresh pictures, fresh geo coordinates. Even if a client doesn't leave you a review, which 9 out of 10 probably won't, every client becomes valuable to you at this point because you're getting valuable organic signaling. A geo coordinate as a digital hand raise, this validates your map area, and with fewer reviews helps you go into the Pack 3 map rankings. It also expands the amount of times a map can show up because of the organic keywords, and the keywords help the organic underneath the map show up as well. DataPins is simply fantastic. It makes blogging look horrible. This is the type of signaling that helps people get dominant on Google. And if you've never gotten dominant on mapping and organic and reputation reviews on Google, you've got to try DataPins. Look it up, datapins.com. If you're interested, call us or email us. We'll see you later.
I don't mind going into work now. We talked about this right before it started. Like I work, let's talk about that real quick. Legacy. So it was like, we're talking about, I work now because I want to have stuff for my kids that I didn't have, and so I know where my income's earmarked for, and it makes it more exciting for me to work. And then legacy for my kids or children someday when I'm taking my last breath. This is how it, hopefully at like 95, after having a pain-free life and picking apple, bananas, or lychee in my orchard in Maui. And I picked my last lychee and I go, oh, and I'm falling over, wheezy, they're coming for me. I'm going. And I'm like, oh man, I feel good. I hooked up my family, and then the lights go out. But I want to have that moment, someday when I die. It's like, Ed Milet was talking about this. I'll be the guy. I don't know if y'all watch Ed Milet. I love Instagram. He's a cool guy, but he said, I'm the guy who changed it for my family. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who stood up and said, by God, we're going up a notch, and everybody they'll talk about me for generations later. It's your bloodline. It's like, what else are we going to do as guys, right? Like we're dudes with testosterone that wanted to fight for more, and I love it. And I know that's why you guys work too, but having some sort of a legacy. I don't remember which one of y'all brought it up before we started, but like we work for for that. I think you did, Jesse. Just
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, my biggest goal right now is to retire my mom. That's what I don't want my mom having to worry about a thing ever again. So
just something, anything like that, but it helps you fight for something to have those dreams down. I used to do my daily affirmation. I don't do it as much anymore, but I'd have a 1-pager, and it wouldn't just be things. Some of it would be, I'd envision my lifestyle, and then I'd have a couple of things written down. I always pick on roofers for wanting to buy a boat and an F-250. Like the first time I get any money, it's like a wrapped boat.
But the best thing about a boat is the day that you sell it, right?
That's what they said.
I have friends with boats.
Yeah,
that's much
that's
better.
what
I want one too. I mean, it's not like I don't want those things. There's a roofer that lives on my street. He's got a wrap boat. It's against the HOA for him to park that thing, but it's parked on the street. It's huge. And then he's got a jacked up F-250, like jack clean up, and they're both wrapped. And
gas is $4.50 a gallon, so he's probably not taking it out as much as he was.
You're right, Wes. I have not seen him cruising up and down the streets as often.
Everything is just sitting there these days.
Right.
Yeah, and for me with legacy, it's really, I think we all kind of envision the same. I mean, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I want to make sure I can put her through school and buy her a nice first car. I don't plan on having any other kids. And, I have a lot of family. When they get older, my family members have all struggled. They've all lived off Social Security. And it's been really me, even in my 20s, helping to take care of them, as they move on or nursing homes. And I just, like you said, when I die, I want to be like, all right, nobody had to do that for me. And here's plenty left for you,
anything. So you don't have to struggle. I think that's part of the thing that sucks about life is like to get up and go work every day just to live,
Yeah. I don't want to work my whole life to not have anything at the end and be on Social Security, if that even is going to exist by that time.
They've been saying that since we were kids, right? Like,
that's true.
But
seems like I can't imagine if they didn't have it, but they've been saying that forever. I don't feel like paying anymore. I think I've paid enough in at this point, but I feel like we'll get less than we paid in than the generation before. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, guys, I wish you both the very best. And just to mention y'all's name again, by the way, anything else? You don't have to say anything else, but do you have anything else? Either one of it that you want to share at all, or?
Kind of appreciate it's a first time it's a first time experience for both of us on a podcast, and we appreciate the opportunity.
It's worth looking into, Jesse and Wes, if you're looking into other stuff, even if it's just local stuff. People find you online. There's side benefits to this stuff. That's why I do it.
I took some notes on the mailers that you were talking about, the ECRWSS, so we could look into it. And all the information you've provided is, we soak it all up like a sponge, and we use it all to make sure to maximize the business.
Bird dog that bulk postcard, because you can go to the places where the printers go. And I can't remember, it's been too long since I bought that stuff, but you can get straight through by using your company name. You can get straight through to like the bulk press. And then it makes it way cheaper, like way cheaper. But I wish you the success. So just to recap, if anybody is Sargon Roofing and Restoration out of Humble, which is Houston, Texas area, which, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, I know people know, there's like a top 5. It's in the top 5 places to be a roofer. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston,
Denver Metroplex.
Denver.
I would say we're about 4th.
A couple of places in Florida.
Exactly.
On the Sugar Coast area over there, Brevard County.
Yep. But there's more people moving to Houston than any of those other places. So we're just growing into a bigger market, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a fantastic market to be in, guys. Y'all will remember next time. Don't be when the big storm hits, man. Increase, and have expenses go back to where they were. And then you got to take and invest that money. You can go buy an F-250 or a boat, but you got to invest it when that storm hits. Y'all hadn't had a storm. So I remember y'all had a storm 2018, was it? Where y'all?
Well, that was Harvey, but that was more of a flood. So by the time it got to us, it was a tropical depression, and we got 52 inches of rain in about 2.5 days. So it was just a catastrophic flood. When we're talking about a major storm to hit that caused damage from wind. That was all the way back to 2008, which was Hurricane Ike.
Wow.
I was 16 years old. So I've been doing this for 15 years and been waiting on a hurricane to hit here. I've worked plenty of hurricanes in Louisiana and Florida, but eventually it will come here and we will be prepared for it.
It'll come there. Do roofs get hit? I mean, for people who don't know, Houston is humid, really humid. So
Very
y'all, roofs get hit bad there basically all the time anyway, right? Don't roofs just?
Yeah, our roofs deteriorate faster because of all of the algae that comes along with the humidity, and because of our hot summers, it bakes the shingles. I mean, when it's 105 degrees outside with 90% humidity in the summers, the roof just, a 30-year shingle does not last 30 years here. You're going to get max 22 years. So it's due to it's pretty brutal climate.
Do people spray for roof moss removal in Houston? Not really.
It's not common, but they do soft wash. There are some companies that do soft washes. It's really not recommended to put chemicals
I've got
on
a guy.
We were looking into it and bleached his roof.
What's that?
We were testing it and we bleached his roof, changed the color of the shingle.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sold on washing any asphalt shingle.
I've got a guy in Bainbridge Island outside of Seattle, Washington. They've got a huge roof moss problem there. And he washes those roofs with a broadcast sprayer from a drone. So he'll go up with it.
Yeah, that's neat.
And that type of moss is different than we have here.
Okay.
It's just we have blue algae, and that is it's just different, and it's way more common. I've seen it. I mean, and if you go to Seattle, I've been there. I mean, they have moss like stacked up on roofs and like piles. It's kind of.
But can't y'all sell like an algae resistant roof there? Do y'all sell algae resistant shingles, or did people not ask?
The manufacturers all have an algae resistant for a period of time, depending on the manufacturer, depends on the length of that warranty is. But what I can say is that none of the algae warranties last what they're supposed to in our market. And that's just the reality. Your roof, if you're putting on a shingle, is going to start turning colors after 8-9 years.
Yep.
My family was in the flooring business growing up, and people would call us and say, I got motor oil and grape, wine and grape juice stains on my carpet. And I'd say, ma'am, it's stained less, not stain free. It's like, it's not guaranteed not to stain. You can't bring motor oil into the house, but people, so I'm sure y'all get questions on stuff like that.
Trees that are around your house, the worse it's going to get.
Well, a lot of people don't ask about it. I mean, they inquire about moss usually when they're buying new shingles or looking at new shingles, but we've never been asked to treat someone's roof for moss, have we? No. Never been asked.
I was just curious about it.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking about it the other day. I was just curious about it, but all right, guys. Well, Sargon Roofing, Jesse and Wes, I appreciate y'all's time, man. This was actually a good one. And Jesse, I'm glad you brought Wes on. It's very, very informative, Wes.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, and if y'all need me for anything, we are going to hook you up with a little extra stuff too for helping out. But thank you for all that. And if you got any questions, feel free to call anytime, Jesse.
Great, thank you.
But yeah, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
All
day.
right. Bye-bye.